Alright, what is good, ladies and gentlemen, is the Master Reviewer back again with another review, and tonight we are doing a review for BFDIE, aka Battle for Dream Island Elsewhere. That is right, this is the shortest season of BFDI, well, I guess excluding IDFB, which is not really, there's only one episode currently, but yeah, besides that one, this is the shortest season of BFDI, and it is pretty interesting because it is technically, it's like kind of like a spin-off in a way, because it takes place, I think, during the events of BFDIA, and it is basically, it kind of goes back to the season 1 style of BFDI, where basically the announcer, the main thing is that the announcer just is the one that is hosting the season once again, so it definitely does not get into the more chaotic randomness of BFDIA or even BFB at any point. Like, it's very much, it kind of goes back to season 1 type of vibes, where it's like actually structured kind of contests and stuff. This season, technically, the votes actually don't matter at the end of each episode. Like, usually it would be vote on which contestant you would want to be eliminated, and then there's cake and steak. But in this season, there actually was not there. I think the contestants, they did vote at the end of each episode, and it would always say like, these votes are going to be important later, but they never actually ended up using it for anything. So yeah, anyway, so there's not really much to talk about the plot, to be honest. It's just we have like a new set of characters. None of them are characters that we have seen before up until this point. Actually, probably at some point there were like recommendations to be characters to be added to either BFDI or maybe BFDIA at some point. But yeah, there's a new set of characters, and it's kind of different this season, because instead of battling for Dream Island, they're not battling for Dream Island. They are battling for Nightmare Island, which is, I guess, the antithesis of Dread. I don't know why I use that word. I was just thinking of Bleach for a moment, but they are battling for basically what is the opposite of Dream Island, which is Nightmare Island, and the winner gets to decide who stays on Nightmare Island, because no one actually, instead of fighting for Dream Island and then the winner gets to choose who gets to go to Dream Island, the winner in this case chooses who has to stay on Nightmare Island. So yeah, that is what everyone is battling for, and it's just, regular standard. There's a competition in this episode, and the loser ends up getting eliminated. There's a lot less contestants, and ultimately, I'll just spoiler alert, because it's actually it's pretty not new, I would say. Like, it's at this point, like, the ending came out 4 months ago, so it's like not like fresh or anything, but it is newer compared to, well, actually BFDIA's conclusion actually probably came out sooner than it, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, or actually I might be wrong. I'm not sure exactly when BFDIA's final episode came out. But anyway, so this is relatively sort of new. So just spoilers if you don't want to get spoiled for the ending. But basically, Fern is the one that ends up winning, and so she ends up she lets everyone leave. But then I think Toothpaste, being the one that's like always has a different enemy, and like each episode he is enemies. By the end, he's enemies with Money, and so he traps Money on the island, and then the gates close, and so the announcer says once the gates close, they can't be opened anymore. So yeah, Money is stuck there while everyone else is free, I guess, and that's how it ends pretty much. So overall, the plot, I'm going to give the plot, I would say, I'm going to go 4 out of 5. I would say I like it. I think, once again, I don't think there's been a season so far that I haven't given at least a 4 to 5, because all the plots are, like, at the very least, I like them. I think this one is a bit... This is definitely like the shortest season, so you don't really have enough time to get a lot of good development and like character kind of dynamics like you had in some of the previous BFDI seasons. This one definitely feels the most bare bones, but even so, it's like you'd still have some time to have like some good dynamics, like the henchman dynamic between Ruler and Jamie. There was the aspect of the arc that Money went through, where it's like at first he is very nice and a pushover to everyone, and then he becomes evil. What else is there? Sticker with his cheating and stuff. Like, you have time to still develop certain, like, you get time to, I guess we'll go into I will speak about now the characters, because that's a good segue. The characters themselves, it's like, even if the plot itself, it doesn't go on a lot. It's like 10 episodes, and each episode is like 7 minutes, 7 to 10 minutes, something like that. So, but even so, I think that the characters are good, I would say. Like, you do have a decent amount of time. It would have been nice to have just more time to spend with these characters and get to know them a bit more, but you do, at the very least, not like certain characters like Hot Dog that get eliminated in the first episode, you really don't have too much time that you spend with them. But there are certain characters like Fern. I might have said Leafy earlier, but I think if I said Leafy, I meant to say Fern. Leafy is not in the season, so Fern, Sidewalky, Sticker, Money, like certain characters you do have more time with them, that you get to like grow attached to them more so than characters that get eliminated earlier on, such as who is it? Hot Dog, Rose, Beach Ball kind of. I think I made a mistake. I said that no, there's all new characters. Technically, David does return in the season. David is in this season, so that is, I guess, cool to see for the David fans out there. So overall, the characters, I would probably just give I'll go like a 6.5 good characters. I don't know what I really rated the characters in the other BFDI seasons, but yeah, as usual, like they're good characters. It's a completely new set of characters, which I think is kind of cool to see, I guess. Like it's definitely nice that we are getting introduced to some new characters. That's always cool, I guess. And just seeing like some new objects, it's kind of cool to see, I guess. So in terms of the settings, this all takes place on, it's a different area. It's no longer, it's kind of like I don't know how to describe it. It's not an open field like you had in BFDI, and it's definitely not these like more well thought out kind of areas that BFDIA had. It's definitely not on that level of like randomness / world expansion for the world. You have nothing like the Goiki Canal or the Evil Forest or Yo-Yo Lands. So no, in this season, it basically, there's like a bit of Nightmare Island in the final episode, but besides that, it mostly takes place in this, I don't really know how to describe it. It's like this area. It's kind of like a forest area, but it has kind of I want to say like a summer kind of vibe to the whole thing, but also mixed with like a winter vibe maybe, because there's like some snow areas as well. So not a summer vibe even. It's hard to describe, like very much kind of, not even a forest setting. It's difficult. It's kind of like I want to say like a beach house kind of vibe to the whole thing. I read a lake house here. A lake house. That's how I would describe it. It kind of feels like a lake house vibe maybe to the whole thing. I might not be portraying well, but yeah, I would say overall the setting. It's a nice setting. It definitely feels different from the other seasons, which it is. I liked it. I would say it was like probably the settings. I would give I'll go like a 6.5 for the settings. Yeah, it's good settings. Not really. Yeah, a bit difficult to describe, but it works for this short, different season that we have going on here. In terms of the visuals, so this season goes back to the art style of BFDI and BFDIA. In BFB, you had like the whole art style switch, and going back here, it is a throwback to the original art style that the series had going on. And it's nice. At this point, I kind of like both art styles, like I don't know about equal, I would say, but I do have an appreciation for both art styles, and so it is nice going back to this original art style, but at the same time, I do kind of miss the other art style that BFB had going on, so I think that it's nice. I like the decision that the showrunners had to go with two different art styles for the series as a whole, so yeah, it's a nice throwback to like the OG art style, and I would give the art style, probably, the visuals, I would give probably like I'll go like a 7 out of 10, I'll say pretty good visuals. It doesn't feel like it gets as fluid as maybe BFDIA did. Definitely because BFDIA, the nature of that show being a lot more chaotic and random and stuff, they did have more fluid animation at times for like a lot of just random chaotic stuff that was going on. This has like good high quality animation and stuff because it is like a lot more modern compared to a lot of the older seasons. However, because of the nature of this season being kind of a throwback to season 1 where it's like a lot more grounded competitions, not exactly like grounded, I would say, like it definitely, it's not as simple as it was back in BFD. No, I think it is simple. It's just not as like, I don't know. The first season was like extremely simple, where it was like cross a bridge, solve a puzzle, I don't know, race to a finish line, stuff like that. Whereas this season, it's a bit more like, it's still simple, but a bit more. I don't even know. Okay, actually think about it. It's not actually that much creative. One was like win a snowball fight. Another one was like climb a pole, rebuild your own personal speaker box. So it is definitely like a throwback to the simpler challenge of this season, of the first season, compared to like what you had in BFDIA or BFB, where the challenges were a lot more wacky and random and chaotic, I would say. So because of that, just the visuals, there's like nothing as chaotic or random to like visualize. Like, so the actual visuals, they don't get to be on the level of something like BFDIA, which it had a lot more fluid animation because there was just a lot more stuff going on in the actual competitions themselves. So yeah, just 7 out of 10 for the visuals. In terms of the worst thing I would say is, I don't really have a worst thing in mind, just probably the fact that like there are some characters at the start that you just don't really have enough time to develop. Even something like BFDIA, by the time you get to like characters that got eliminated early on, Woody, Flower, Spongy, it's like because Spongy, actually I don't remember how early on he got eliminated, but early characters from BFDI, at the very least, like the show as a whole, even like I was gonna say like for later seasons it's like you get these characters more developed, but even in BFDI, like the first season as a whole, like by the time you got towards the end of the season, it's like you still had like moments with these characters that you saw earlier on that helped them feel a lot more memorable, whereas in this series, just a lot of the earlier characters, I just completely like don't have anything to say about them. When I get to the character ranking, I'm just not gonna have to. I'm gonna probably have to rank a lot of characters by default, like D tier or F tier, just because characters like Hot Dog, Rose, I just don't really remember a lot of what they did. Beach Ball as well. Whereas characters like, I don't know, again, Flower from BFDI, it's like she got eliminated in the first episode of BFDI, but then she's very memorable because she showed up like afterwards as well. And some of these characters do also show up afterwards as well, but I know not to the same extent as the characters in BFDI returned, and they also had the benefit in BFDI of returning for also BFDIA as well as for BFB. So yeah, overall, I'm going to say the worst thing is just the fact that certain characters, they're just not as developed as much as others because of them just getting eliminated earlier on, I would say. So I would give that probably it doesn't really like ruin the show, but it is like a bit of a shame. So I'm just going to give it like a 4.5, the utilization of certain characters, I guess. So yeah. In terms of the best thing I would say is, I'm not sure, I'll probably just read as the best score, which was the plot. So I'll give another 4 to 5 for the plot, because once again, this is just like all these seasons of BFDI, like just the concept as a whole of this challenge of like each episode the character gets eliminated and they're ultimately battling for either an island or, I don't know, a piece of dirt with a fake cow on it. For in the case of BFDIA, BFB, it was fighting over BFDIA itself. This one, I like the twist of it where they're not fighting for a dream island, they're fighting for a nightmare island to make sure that they don't stay on it, and so that they can decide who ends up staying on the nightmare island. So I do like the twist of this season as a whole. But so yeah, it's like just the plot itself is still very entertaining, I would say. This show, like as a whole, every season just has a good, like just the nature of the show itself is just entertaining. So yeah, another 4 to 5 for the plot, I would say. And yeah, that is all of the scores. So I'm going to do the calculations. So King Crimson. All right, so it ends up coming out to exactly a 6.75, which would be between a 6.5 to a 7, which would be between a good to pretty good. And I think I'm just going to give it what I've been giving like every season up until this point. I'm pretty sure every season up until this point I've given a 6.5, and I think I'm just going to give another 6.5. This show is very consistently just a good show, but it never really gets higher than that or really lower than that. It's just very consistently just a 6.5. It's a good show. It's got like, it's just entertaining and stuff, but it doesn't get to like any amazingly high levels as like maybe some other media properties I review get to. So yeah, still, it just, again, it's another just good season of BFD. If you like BFDI, you'll probably like this season as well. And yeah, the next season is going to be Teapot, which is the final one that I have to review currently, and then I will be all caught up, and then from that point on, just any time an episode releases of either Teapot, because I'm pretty sure that's still ongoing. So when a new Teapot episode releases, and eventually, hopefully, when the IDFB episodes start releasing again, I will just be doing shorts on the channel to review the individual episodes. So yeah, so one last kind of season left to go, and then we're all caught up, I guess. So yes, overall, I would give the season a 6.5, another good season. And yeah, that is pretty much all there is to it. So if you have any recommendations, any shows, movies, video game stories, anime, manga, web series, anything that you want me to review, leave it in the comments and I will maybe possibly check it out. With that said, that is pretty much all there is to it. So let's leave it at that.